Berry, your health transformation coach. How's everyone doing tonight? I'm very excited to begin this journey with all of you on re-engineering your health and nutrition. This is going to be a fortnight long series, and it's going to be a series which is going to be a mix of dietary, nutritional, mindfulness practices, movement practices, a lot about families and children. The first week is going to focus on your health and your nutrition. I'm going to share a lot of tidbits, many surprising facts and stories. And tonight we're going to start with something we already knew but didn't know how amazing it could be in our diet and was always misunderstood. So let's start today with what I call a pH neutral diet. We're going to get a little into biochemistry, and the reason I'm talking about this is the need of the hour is our immunity. So what makes us more immune? Do we all know that we have a neutral pH value that has to be balanced in our bodies? And how do we get to that? There's a lot spoken about acidity in the body, alkalinity. Let me give you a brief of what I mean by this so that we really understand its relevance in your bodies and how you eat. So typically lemon is known as an acidic food and egg is known as alkaline. There is a pH scale which goes up to a minus, and there's a +8 is very alkaline, a -2 or -3 is acidic. Lemon is seen as a -2, eggs are seen as a +7. Now what happens when they go inside your body and in the form they do? If I squeeze a little bit of lemon, fresh lemon, in my dal or just in a small bowl and take that as a shot, what happens? Do you know what happens in my body? Is it still acidic or does it actually become alkaline? So traditional Ayurveda actually teaches us that there is a post-digestive effect of food that actually changes its state and biochemistry in the body, which basically means that the lemon turns from acidic to alkaline. So almost from a -2 to a +6 or 7 inside our bodies, making it much more alkaline, much more pH neutral, depending on what we just ate. So for example, if you had kali dal and naan and you squeeze some lemon, it gets it a little bit more to neutral because that kali dal for sure made it highly acidic, so minus. What happens with the egg? The egg which was a +7. Now, if we boil the egg, the more heat that it is applied to the egg, the more acidic it becomes. So it goes from a plus to a minus, slowly becoming more minus. So a +7 went to a pH neutral at boiling after 5 to 7 minutes. And the minute we got it hard boiled, which is when the yolk turns a little gray, that's when you got to a minus. So the post-digestive effect of a hard-boiled egg or a well-done omelette, unfortunately for all of you who love eating the eggs nicely well done Indian style, that is making your body highly acidic. I just did this to illustrate that actually we change the nature of food by the manner in which we cook it. And that is what makes it more acidic or alkaline. So how is this relevant on a daily basis? Actually, we're doing this every single day to all of our foods based on how we have grown up in culture, in our families, in our regions, based on the recipes we see out there. And a lot of times we assume that because we've been brought up that way, our gut has adjusted to it and that's the right way to eat because our parents ate that way. Now, number one fact check, not all of our grandparents and parents are in the best of health. Number two, neither are we based on our present day lifestyle, which is why we have to start looking in and looking back at what are we doing. Do we live the same lifestyle as our parents lived or our grandparents lived? Do we have access to the same food or the same quality of food? Answer to all of these questions actually is no. We cannot replicate those lifestyles. We don't live under the same circumstances, and our environment, the food that's available to us is very different. So there are many foods that can actually make your body a little more pH neutral or balanced in the present day, in spite of eating out, eating rich food. Yes, we have to make changes, but that food is much more obvious than you thought. I gave you the example of how to eat an egg. meaning don't overcook it, don't boil it, make it just right, half boil. But what about the lemon? Can I cook it? Not really. So that brings me to my main topic for today of the highest pH neutral foods. Any guesses what they might be? It's not a very obvious guess. So let me start with fats. Fats are the most pH neutral food. Yeah, you heard me correctly, fats. And fats means ghee, coconut oil, coconut malai. What else? Fats also means egg yolks. All of these are fats, and until now they were foods that everybody told you not to eat. Now let's get into why you were told not to eat. You were told not to eat because you might gain some weight. Why else were you told not to eat? It makes you more acidic. It will drive your cholesterol higher. What else will it do? It will lower your ability to absorb the glucose in your blood, and you may have high blood sugar. So many side effects of this. What are more good fats? We have nuts. What are nuts? Things like almonds, walnuts. They're a great category for getting good fat in your body. So these are some of the common fats that we have available. Now let's see how we eat them in culture. In the evening, when you're having a nice drink, what do you like to have? Sauteed nuts with lots and lots of salt, and you probably toss them in some oil or fancy spices. Sometimes we have these nuts sauteed and packaged. Nowadays we have these power mixes, and you got the nuts sauteed in oil with lots of spices and salt and all of that. What do you think? Is that going to be healthy for you? When you add condiments to anything and you've packaged it, you change the nature of what it needs to be. And the salt makes the shelf life longer. The longer the shelf life, you're going to find that actually the nuts are going rancid inside, and the flavor of the salt and maybe sometimes the soya flavor is actually making it completely camouflaged. So that's one way that we are all having these foods thinking that we're eating healthy, but actually increasing the acidity in our body. And then some of us of course go and pop in that little lime to make our body a little more alkaline. Yeah, that's definitely a shortcut. It is a quick fix. But today more about the fats. Then coming to the ghee. Of course, grandma has always fried mattis at home in desi ghee, and that was her favorite growing up evening snack. And she was having that with her tea, and she was fine till let's say my granddad said let's have some biscuits, because biscuits are not fried technically, but they're still flour, and now they've camouflaged the biscuits with all of those different condiments and flavors. And because of course it's not Indian, it's European, it's got to be healthier, right? Because we went there, corrected all our notions and came back. So that's what's happening now, because we're saying good fats. But these good fats that I just mentioned, they are all Indian. They've been here. Nuts have been a part of our diet. Ghee has been a part of our diet. Coconut has been a part of our diet in all its different forms. So today we are going to discover how we've been eating that, how it's changed through time, what are the daily practices that we have followed through generations, and how we can adapt that now. Yes, there are people with different dietary needs, with different allergies. I will not be able to cover all of those specifics today, but definitely I can shed light on 3 or 4 takeaways that at least one each of you can apply. And if you have specifics, of course you'll get in touch with me to work more deeply on your diet. So grandma and grandpa woke up in the morning and had almonds, anything between 2 to 4 almonds. We have 90% of us continued that practice. Now anytime someone comes up to me and says I wake up at 7 or 8 a.m., I have a cup of tea and I have 4 almonds, what do you think I say to them? Should you continue that? Should you not continue that? Is it still relevant? Is it not? Because I just said nuts are good fat, and these are soaked almonds, mind you. So we have taken that from culture and kept it there. The problem is that we don't live the same lifestyle. We're not waking up at the same time. Most of our grandparents were waking up in what we call the dawn twilight hour or the Brahma Muhurat, and at that time 4:35, the energy is different. You're more active, you go about your daily chores. There are hardly any physical chores left in our lives. We wake up, maybe read the newspaper, some people watch TV, or most of us are on our phone, and then we go for a shower and we get straight to the breakfast table. So the protein and the fat and the carbohydrate which is there in those almonds, 4, 6, how many ever you're eating, has not even started to digest before you sit at the breakfast table to have your next ideal meal, which should have been a fruit. So what do you think we should do to those almonds? We need to shift it out of there, because if we keep it there, it's actually interfering with our cleansing and digestion. It was absolutely relevant when our grandparents were eating it at 5 a.m. as a starting boost to their system, as a really good fat in the morning that gives them that little bit of energy to do whatever cleaning, mopping, farming they were doing. None of us are doing any of that. So we have to change that. How do we adapt that? The ideal fat to start your day with in today's day and age could be anything from a Shuddh ghee, 1 teaspoon, to a cold pressed extra virgin coconut oil, 1 teaspoon. Now, a lot of you are probably making a horrible face at this because absolutely not palatable. So you can do a little bit of a hack here and there, add a little pinch of cinnamon, add a tiny drop of honey to make it more palatable. The more Shuddh and the purest form you have it in, the better for you. But of course, if you can't take that spoon in, you need to combine it with something. Now, both of these are going to help with weight loss, believe it or not. And I'll tell you how. Any of you who have made idlis or watched idlis being made or baked a cake have seen that we use some amount of, eggs, butter, milk, all of that in the cake mix. But the most important thing is to actually grease that pan. And if I don't grease that pan, once I've baked the cake, I take it out, it's not going to come out. It's going to stick everywhere. So I'm going to have to add some more butter, some more milk, and a whole lot more to bring it out. If I just put that 1 teaspoon of fat and grease my pan, then I pour in my cake mix, bake it and bring it out, it's going to very, very easily empty out. And guess what? My cake mix will actually need a little less butter. So I'm not going to need a whole lot of butter to make that cake. I just needed that 5 grams of fat or butter. In the same manner, you just need that 1 teaspoon of raw fat in the morning. Any kind of good fat, and yes, it can be saturated just like coconut oil or ghee, because you're having it empty stomach, you're getting the good fat. You're not putting in any other carbohydrates or proteins, because most of us who are not in the morning 5 a.m. club are not doing a whole lot of work. So we are not digesting it before we sit at the breakfast table. So these are the good fats that you can start your day with. They're absolutely going to line your esophagus, line your gut, your intestine, and then whatever cleansing foods you put next will help you achieve that alkaline pH balance. So that's how I want you to start your day, with a good fat. And remember that ghee and coconut oil are supreme for these. Then coming to our daily cooking. Now this is where most people, when I tell them, and you need to change your cooking at home because ghee is excellent. And because I work in maternity with so many moms, they always come telling me that we have such a huge battle between our doctors and our home front, because everyone's telling us not to have ghee. I've just had a baby, don't have ghee, you're going to get fat, your stitches aren't going to dry. I said, where did this story come from? And the story came from, we really didn't have what we call any kind of measurement of how much. We've forgotten that mums are 30, 35 when we are birthing, and again at that time they were 16 or 18 when they were birthing. So what about the metabolic rate of a 16-year-old mum, and what about the metabolic rate of a 30-year-old woman? I'm giving you this example as just making it more real and relevant in a case where ghee really becomes the enemy or the poison in the system, and it's so misunderstood because it has to do with how you eat it, it has to do with how you cook it, and the time of day you're eating it, and again the portion you're eating. So if you have, which I have seen with my own eyes, the 9-liter jars of ghee that some families keep for what we call the postpartum japa time of mothers. This is relevant to everyone, but I'm giving you this example because I see this every second day with my new mothers, that we have these jars of ghee that have to finish in 40 days. Of course, it's going to be your body enemy. You cannot digest that much. Even if you're really active, no new mother with 2 kids working out 3 hours a day, carrying her baby is going to be able to digest that. So remember, portion is key. And then if we fry the badam ka halwa in that, and we fry the suhalis and matthis in that, and we make some gond ka laddus in that, what do you think is going to happen to your system? Plus, you're eating all of the normal food. So now, coming back to how do I use my ghee? How do I make it a part of my regular diet? And I'm going to give all the vegans out there an alternative option as well. So first, talking about the pure ghee, you actually always must put the ghee last. It has to be the last point in your cooking, not the first point in your cooking. What do I mean by that? We are so used to doing up tadka in ghee or in oil. Now I'm not even going to oil because we have no assurance of the purity, so we're sticking to ghee, and most Indian food can be cooked in ghee. So yes, if you want to fulfill your taste buds, sometimes you're going to do that onion frying in ghee, but in general, because I cook a lot, I've seen this happen. You can do the onions, just steam them, finish frying them in water. They won't fry, but they will get cooked. And once you're done with it, close the fire, add that dollop of ghee and jeera or whatever you wanted in the chaw, and it's going to crackle and it's going to turn brown just the way you want it, and you'll add it as that extra chaw in your food. The problem is that we feel we are eating boiled food or steamed food the minute I say do this. So if you're making a simple beans vegetable or a simple sauteed carrot, you need to make sure you steam and boil it nicely to get your taste. Add all your masala like haldi, add a little bit of salt, add either rai or jeera, and in that last moment when you want to add your chaw, add your little bit of ginger. You actually have a little bit of a small, a chonk device. I like to call it chonk device, like the small little bowl that you can put in the fire. Heat it up, put your jeera in that, close it as soon as you see the jeera getting a little hot, and then you add your ghee. And you can use that to cook in your sabzi. Your sabzi is completely cooked, you add that on top, you will get full flavor. Now, of course, the problem is that we've gotten used to our vegetables also being fried in that oil and drinking that oil. And that slight taste has to change. The minute you get the vegetable to drink that oil, you also automatically need a little bit more salt. Now, the minute you're having that fried sabzi and that little bit more salt, what do you think happens? Your body starts to dehydrate and ask for more water. And food with oil and salt and water, what do you think happens to that? Water as in water on top that we drink, it's not warm, it's regular drinking water, and we all know that oil is not really water soluble unless you heat. So you're having plain drinking water and you're having some salt and you've had that cooked extra ghee. It's a big khichdi in your stomach and it's floating separately, and now your body is becoming more and more acidic to digest all of this food. So some people are going to chug that water, some people are going to eat some more because your taste buds now start to crave more and more. So you automatically made your tongue crave more acidic food because of the manner in which you use the fat. So always remember that cook in desi ghee, but cook your food first and then add it on top. And yes, if you want to mix it for taste, sometimes a little bit more, add just that basic amount. We have a household where we make lots of potato preparations because most people here can't live without the potatoes. And now you know potatoes are starchy. They love soaking in anything that's around them, including water, oil and ghee. So if you keep making that potato and keep pouring the ghee, it will keep drinking and drinking and drinking. And of course, if you're used to that taste, you're going to love it. But just that slight tweak in taste about adding it a little bit at the end, maybe a little bit less crispy, but it won't compromise more than 5% on that taste. So try this out. It is going to take you a week. It's going to be a labor of love, but it's a labor of love for your health. Coming to the slightly more vegan option, because I have a lot of clients now who have turned vegan. A lot of mums, a lot of parents, a lot of people who are suffering from let's say diabetes or cholesterol, and they like the coconut alternative. When I say coconut oil or coconut, they are not again foolproof, but they are definitely options of highly alkaline getting taste in the food. Now here you're going to actually use coconuts and nuts and nut creams and nut milks. And this is the way to go if you are on a more vegan diet. You're not using traditional oils, you're not using any dairy products. You cook the food in the same manner, but you actually add the good fat from your almonds churned as cream, or from your 2 or 3 cashews churned as cream, and you can actually make your wonderful paneer makhani. We often make this recipe at home for our kids also, because it's adding the good fat, the good protein, getting your vegetable in there also, and making sure that you have taste. We are not a vegan family, so we make it paneer makhani. You can make any other vegetable as makhani, because you can get your pureed onions in there, you can get your pureed cashews in there, whatever kasuri methi masala, everything, cook it all together, add your veggies, and you will get that same taste. Yes, you can add that little oil tadka in the end if you want it to be that tad bit tasty and unhealthy. They are always an option, but coconut and nut creams become your vegan options for cooking and excellent for fat. Now, why am I saying even eat fat? Should you be eating fat? Does it depend on what kind of diet you have? The morning fat I mentioned is applicable to everyone of all ages, infants, adults, anyone with any kind of health condition. But what I mentioned right now, listen closely, because this is a tricky one. If you choose not to give up your regular samosas, if you choose not to give up your regular biscuits and your parathas for lunch and dinner, then we have to think before we add the extra ghee on top. You have to think before you add the cashews and the nuts and the almond cream to your sabzis, because that's double. Now, if you choose to say that I want all the fats, but I'm ready to give up on my usual taste of having those 2 biscuits with my chai and my age-old fried suhali and my samosas every second day, homemade yummy samosas, then we absolutely can switch over to these options. And I promise you, there's not going to be any weight gain, there's not going to be any high blood pressure or high blood sugar, because actually nuts and a limited amount of saturated fats like coconut and ghee regulate blood sugar, because they don't actually make you want that excess. They're not fried now, they haven't been burnt, their biochemistry hasn't changed. And when the biochemistry hasn't changed, what you find is that your body stays pH neutral. The minute it starts burning up with especially something like a maida or a refined wheat, automatically it becomes more and more acidic. And that's the key to understanding how we change the state and the nature of the food, and it goes in and changes the state and the nature of your body, and this in turn changes the state and the nature of your mind. Your digestion, how you feel, is changed by what you eat. So again, what you eat is what you are, is coming from there. The manner in which you consume your fat is absolutely essential to remember. So we've talked about our morning fat, we've talked about how to add different kinds of nut creams, the ghee on top of food, the coconut. Let's go a little bit into the coconut. So what kinds of coconut are healthy? Coconut malai that you find inside the dab, very, very healthy, but it's almost like a meal by itself. So if you love it, have it as a lunch meal with a big portion of vegetable and eat no more. Eat no more. It's a lot of calories and it will really, really fill you up. The next one is the brown coconut. You can make a coconut milk out of it. You can do a grated coconut. We love the sabzis with the rai ka chonk and the curry leaves with maybe a cabbage or a beans or a barbati or a pumpkin. So coconut grated can be beautifully used with any of those. Coconut milk you can use in your curry preparations. Pumpkin soup tastes great with coconut, and you have your Thai curries. So those can also be done with coconut. All of these are great options, but remember, if you are increasing the fat and the good fat in your diet in the manner I've mentioned, you absolutely have to take out the ones that you are addicted to. You cannot add both. But the minute you choose to do this, I promise you, if you are suffering from any of the usual lifestyle diseases, including metabolic syndrome, fatigue, diabetes like we spoke of, high cholesterol levels, and obesity. This is absolutely going to help you cut out all of these issues. It's going to make your body more supple. And my most favorite one to talk about when it comes to nuts and ghee. We are all suffering in India, where we have so much sunlight and we are a nation of milk drinkers. We are suffering with calcium deficiencies, vitamin D deficiencies, and osteoporosis. One of the highest incidences is in India. And I would say that the magnesium, the fats available in nuts automatically helps you with all of your joints and your pain. Anyone with arthritis is going to benefit hugely from adding these nuts and ghee to their food. Again, remember, don't misunderstand and start adding it to your fried food. Coming back to the snacks that are packaged, not a good idea. It has to be fresh. It has to be non-processed. Remember these things, because fats have to be taken in the right way without their biochemistry being changed, so that they stay pH neutral in your body. Now, coming to the next one, which is my favorite, and this is an achiever's guide, which any growing child, anyone who's interested in sports, or anyone who feels hungry at night should definitely take home. And that is your nut milk in the evening. When I say nut milk, I usually mean almond milk. And I mean the almond milk you would make at home, not the packaged one. I, as you can see, tend to trust mostly homemade things, and almond milk is one of the easiest to make. There is a concept of food staleness, and food staleness is extremely important to remember, which is something that happens to food when it is coming out of a box. So you've got those almonds at home, you need to soak them. Once you soak them, you may or may not peel them based on taste preferences and again specific dietary needs. So you may or may not peel them, but soaking is important. And once you have soaked them, the ideal way to make a nut milk out of it is to churn it with 200 ml water and drink that maybe an hour or two after dinner. If your dinner is 9:30, not a great idea. Your dinner needs to be at 7 p.m. or 7:30 p.m. where you consume this somewhere around 8:39. For some people, half a cup is enough. For some people, a full glass is good. Growing children, a full glass works very well. New mums, a full glass works very well because you tend to get really, really hungry. What about the nuts in the morning? I would highly encourage you to not have them first thing unless you rise at 4:35 a.m. and you're up on the move. You do your yoga in the morning. Yes, absolutely have 10 soaked nuts in the morning. But most of us don't do that. We tend to have different exercise regimes. We get to different kinds of breakfasts. So if you still want to have them in the morning, have the nuts with your cereal breakfast. What do I mean by cereal breakfast? If you have any kind of Indian cereal breakfast like poha, upma, chilla, that kind of stuff, you can have your nuts there. But I would still recommend having the nuts as a nut milk at night. Now let's see why I've segregated the food like this. The first half of your day, even before the half up till 12, is cleansing time. So that's the time I gave you the good fat empty stomach. Whether you had a glass of water before that or not is not so relevant. You can take it after, before, but it's mostly empty stomach before you eat. So that's cleansing time. It's actually helping you cleanse your body. And at night is repair time. So repair time is once you've settled down, you've eaten a healthy hearty meal, and then you're adding the nut milk. Now the nut milk has to be churned, and you don't actually use everything. You strain it a little bit. When you strain it a little bit, there's a little bit of greeniness that comes out which you don't use, but most of it is in there. It should be completely blended and smooth. And yes, you can add flavor to it. So a little bit of a cardamom or a little bit of a saffron, all are great ideas. Make it flavored based on how you like it. And that's absolutely perfect. What it does, it's a huge brain boost. And brain boost in a way that at night you start feeling extremely content. You don't feel heavy. So try this. Of course, don't drink it and go to sleep immediately, but it doesn't have the same impact as a glass of cow's milk would. Cow's milk, for many people, makes them feel extremely heavy. For some people, it makes them feel a little gassy or regurgitating, but they have it because of habit. I would say try this out. It actually makes you feel full but light. It makes your mind sharper. It makes your body more flexible. And it's a great combination of fiber, protein, fat and carbohydrate. So unlike what a lot of people have thought of as nuts are fattening, yes, they are high in calories, but they are not fattening if taken in the right way. So I hope you've understood the manner in which I've asked you, because today I'm really focusing on the biochemistry of these foods. And to just go a little bit into why not packaged almond milk. Now in Ayurveda, we talk about the prakriti of a body and the prakriti of food. And we also talk about the 5 elemental states of the human body and food, in which air is one of the states, and air, fire, water, all of these are energies within us and in food. The longer a food has been cooked and it has been changed in terms of its natural nature. So if we've taken a nut and we've activated it in water and then we churn it, we've already started the process of decay in that nut. It's no more protected with its shell. So once we have broken it out, just like a fruit, it has been de-seeded, it's going to start rotting. And if you add things on top to make it stop rotting, you are camouflaging the rot. You're camouflaging the staleness. And that's something I would not recommend. Also, the wind energy in it is increasing. The air element is increasing. So it can have different impacts on your body. So ideally, I would say have a fresh almond milk anywhere between 7:30 to 9 p.m. to have the maximum impact of the protein, the fat, and it is an absolute sportsman's delight. It's an absolute perfect drink for any growing child or any middle-aged person who wants to achieve health goals. And definitely I would give it to people who are vegan or lactose intolerant as well. So just to do a little bit of a recap now, we've talked about fats and pH neutral foods. The ideal ones are your coconut oil and ghee in the morning, cooking your food with either a ghee on top without heating or boiling the ghee or frying the ghee, and having the coconut grated or the coconut milk in your soups and veggies, or having the coconut malai. And then come your nut creams. Ideal is the almond one, or you can even have cashew cream in your food. You can make delightful bakes out of it. For more recipe shares, you will have to come and join me in my workshops. But in general, you can make most Indian food thicker, soups, Mediterranean foods and your European baked dishes with nut creams beautifully. Of course, there will be a slight taste change, and based on your dietary needs, you will pick which one you like more, and maybe if you're not a vegan, add a little bit of cheese on top. So that's how you would go about it, and you would end your day with repair work from the almond milk. So I hope you've got a general understanding of how to use fats, and today you really demystified and debunked that whole myth that we shouldn't be having fats, that we shouldn't really be consuming any kind of excess ghee. Of course, excess is bad, but we're really talking about fried here. Yeah, so fried is what we are avoiding. Rancid foods that are camouflaged is what we are avoiding. So pH neutral is the way to go forward with fats, and it is going to get you to a higher immunity level. That burning sensation that comes after eating a fried paratha or a kali dal is not going to come anymore if you have fats in this manner. So I hope that clears up this genre of food. Now, going forward, I am going to take many ideas about food, ideas about our taste buds, hunger, how we eat, our food behavior, to really get into how to demystify your eating and get you in a healthier space. I'm going to invite you to now ask your questions, and as we do so, take up a few questions and see if you have any doubts to clear on how to consume these foods better. Going forward in the next week, especially tomorrow, we are going to get into your 6 taste buds as classified by Ayurveda, and seeing how sweet or the sugar taste bud plays a huge role, how to have that better. So really going into all your favorite foods, like we went into our fats today, demystify that. Let's go into sugar tomorrow, demystify that, and see how we can consume that better in a more holistic and mindful way. Let's A few questions are coming about which nuts are best and should we have them soaked. Absolutely, nuts soaked can be very, very healthy. If we do peel them, remember that the peels have some omega-3 and omega-6, linoleic and linolenic acid, which is great for brain development. So you do lose out on that. If you are having a whole bunch of nuts, like 15-20, maybe you can keep half peeled and keep half unpeeled. Nuts, for me, almonds are best. There are a few people who are allergic, but usually almond allergies are not common. Peanut allergies are more common, and peanuts generally are legumes, so they don't necessarily come into this category. Quick question about nuts and fruits. They don't go well together. They shouldn't be eaten together, and I think I would love to cover one session on an ideal diet from morning to evening. That will come at some point, not today or tomorrow, but definitely keep your fruits and nuts separate, because nuts are a category of fruit but with a hard and seed covering, so the digestion process is very, very different. Fruits are pre-digested in nature, nuts are not. They take a huge digestion time, even though they are excellent for you, and they do need to be highly, highly chewed and eaten in a specific way. Muesli is a good breakfast food, so as I'm seeing the questions, I'm taking them up quickly. Organic is best. If you don't add the raisins to it or the fresh fruit to it, I would prefer it, because food combinations is something we keep in mind in Ayurveda for sure. And cashews are great nuts for cooking. They add a lot of flavor to food, so that is something that we can definitely have. But cashew milk is not something I would recommend very highly. A little extra saturated fat, and not something that I want you to have before sleeping. So that's not something that I want you to consume. But nut milk, almond milk is the best to go for. Now we have a question about fruit juices. Even though they are not part of the fat category, I would take in the morning breakfast and demystify that a little bit today, and then we'll get to the ideal way of eating going forward in the next few sessions. Fruit juices, vegetable juices are very much in vogue. Of course, we know now that fruit juices is a whole lot of sugar, and we are going to talk about sugar tomorrow. So let's take that up in detail tomorrow. When to have fruit juices, whether to have fruit juices, which ones to have. Definitely, let me say it, I write up now, not to have the packaged ones or the real ones, anything with a logo, but homemade, we will look into what we can do with fruit juices. Things like oats, muesli, chira, poha, all of those things, those are foods that I would say are absolutely okay for breakfast. But if I'm working individually on a diet, how much breakfast, when to eat is something we would talk about individually. Now, when I say fats, a lot of you are coming up with the question of what about the keto diet, and am I talking about the keto diet? Actually, I'm not talking about the keto diet at all. I am putting fats in, keeping in mind a balanced diet. And when I say a balanced diet, of course, a balanced diet is different for everyone. A balanced diet stays different for everyone. And this means that age-wise, the fat content will change. So age-wise fat content changing means for a baby it would be different, for an elder person it would be different. But keto means more than 50% fat in your diet, and that's not okay, because you're not getting your fiber, vitamins, minerals, a little bit of carbohydrates, and a little bit of protein. So all of that needs to be kept in mind. And this diet that I've talked to you about, I've only talked about a few coordinates of that from the fat perspective and the alkaline fat perspective. That doesn't equate to the keto. I'm a little bit removed from that, so not a necessary supporter of that diet time. Quick question on the best time to eat nuts. The best time to eat nuts would be either as an evening snack, but definitely not the processed one, the fresh one. You can actually make a beautiful nut mix, add some seeds. You can home saute it fresh and have it. Some people like to add their chana, dal makhana, different things. You can, based on your particular taste bud needs and dietary needs. And then the nut milk is the ideal one to have between 7:30 and 9:30 p.m. So that's how I would go about the right time to have nuts. I don't support the morning nuts unless you are an early riser and a very, very morning active person. So that's how I would look at it. And going forward, The sugar, the time to eat food, the ideal day plan is something we are going to look at in the next week, which I'm very, very excited to do with you. Demystify a lot of tastes, demystify a lot of regular foods as the days come. And tomorrow we are going to talk about our beautiful taste buds, our favorite sugar, the manner in which we can, should or should not eat that. So I look forward to seeing all of you tomorrow to discuss all of these favorite topics and get more into your health and nutrition. So be a little mindful of how you're eating. Now start observing how you're eating fats and how you can start changing soon enough to incorporate all these healthy tidbits I gave you. And this beautiful endeavor that Arvind and Supriya have started as FOMO NOMO, you have to like the live page and get onto it to get all the posts. So I look forward to all of you joining me on this fortnight long journey of self-health, family health, mindfulness and stress-free living. Look forward to seeing all of you tomorrow and for the next fortnight. Thank you so much. Good night to all of you.